Hi, this is Dave Birmingham, Senior Technical Evangelist for SIOS Technology and Microsoft Cluster MVP. I'm going to take a quick moment here to show you how to create a SANLess cluster using SIOS Datakeeper Cluster Edition. So we're going to start by looking at the Datakeeper interface, and we're going to create a job. It's a simple three-step wizard that will replicate a volume from one server to the other, and we'll register the volume in failover clustering for use in a Hyper-V cluster. So we'll go ahead and open the Datakeeper interface as you see here, and we'll create a job. We'll give the job a name. We'll call this E drive. And then there's a three-step wizard where you have to choose first the source of the job. So the primary server will be the source. Then you can choose the IP address where you want the replication traffic to travel. So we'll choose a private network for the replication traffic. And the volume that you want to replicate. In this case, we're going to replicate the E drive. And we'll choose next. Then we're to choose the target server. In this case, our target is called secondary, and the IP address is on the same subnet as the source. And the E drive looks good. The final configuration page gives us options for the mirror. We could do synchronous mirroring or asynchronous mirroring. For local area networks, we will choose synchronous mirroring. If I was doing WAN replication for disaster recovery, I might choose asynchronous and enable compression. There's 9 levels of compression. And I could also choose to limit the amount of bandwidth that Datakeeper uses across the WAN. But for this case, we'll choose synchronous replication since it's on the same subnet. We'll click Done. This is going to replicate everything on the E drive from the primary server to the secondary server. Once that is completed, we'll see that there's a pop-up here that recognizes that this server is part of a cluster. And it's asking us if we want to register this volume resource in failover clustering. Before I say yes, I will show you in Failover Cluster Manager that there are currently no disk available in the storage configuration. So if I come back here and I say yes, that will automatically register the Datakeeper volume E in available storage in this cluster. Now this cluster I have pre-configured to have clustering with the nodes of the primary, secondary, and DR server. So this is currently a 3-node cluster. Now this mirror that I created was only from primary to secondary. In order to have a third node, we will have to create another target of this mirror. So to do that, we will go ahead and right-click on this job and we'll create a mirror. And the primary server will be the source. The E drive looks good. In this case, the DR server will now be the target, and the IP and the volume look good. But because this is across a WAN, we'll choose asynchronous replication, and we'll enable some compression. And we'll click Done. So now this is a multi-target mirror going from primary to secondary and primary to DR. But Datakeeper also wants to collect information should the secondary server become a source. How should the secondary server communicate to the DR server? So we have to choose the IP address that we want to use for that communication. And we also want to specify whether that mirror is asynchronous or synchronous. In this case, it will be asynchronous as well. And we'll click OK. So now I will have a multi-target mirror of the E drive going from primary to secondary as well as primary to DR. So to create a Hyper-V resource, we will go over here to our Failover Cluster Manager. Now there are many ways to do this, including Virtual Machine Manager, Failover Cluster Manager, or Hyper-V Manager itself. But we'll use the Failover Cluster Manager, and we'll simply right-click on Roles, and we'll choose Virtual Machines and configure a new virtual machine. We'll place this virtual machine on the primary server, and we'll walk through this wizard. We'll give the virtual machine a name, key here is we want to store this virtual machine on the replicated volume. So we will choose the E drive that we have replicated. And you walk through the rest of the steps like a normal virtual machine. Memory and networking. Virtual hard disk. We'll install an operating system later for the sake of time here. We'll walk you through the process. So the virtual machine was created successfully. You see there's a warning here. If we look at the report, you'll notice that it's saying that the E drive is not a path to storage in the cluster. So what we need to do as the final step is we need to add that E drive to this virtual machine resource. So in this virtual machine, what we need to do is add that volume as a resource. So we're going to go ahead and right click on it and say add storage and choose the data keeper volume E as storage. And then the final step is we need to add a dependency on the volume E. So under the virtual machine configuration resource, we're going to right click on it and choose properties, dependencies, and choose the data keeper volume E as a dependency. And now we're able to bring this resource online, and we have a highly available virtual machine resource. And there we go.